The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Trilogy is finally on 4K from Arrow Video. Today, we're going to take a look at this glorious box set, and we're going to compare it to the 2012 Blu-ray release. Now, this is less of an unboxing video, so I'm going to briefly unbox it, but we take the slip off. There is, of course, a nice cardboard box. I just got the regular edition with this artwork. I kind of preferred it, so take everything out of the box here. We do have a poster for the original movie. It is a high-quality print, so I appreciate that, at least for, this kind of release. You have a 58-page booklet themed as a Roy's menu. Lots of behind-the-scenes stuff, essays, that kind of thing in here. And one thing I did was switch these out immediately, just because I'm in love with the original artwork for these, so had to switch them out. I didn't think the new artwork was bad or anything like that. It's just I'm so attached to the original. Now, 2 and 3 do come with their own posters as well, but they are, much cheaper paper. I guess they felt like they had to include some other stuff in here. The Roy's pizza card is a nice touch. I do like that. The 4 stickers, I will never say no to stickers. The one that I do find a little bit puzzling is the trading cards, that it's just available with this. I don't know, personally these don't really do anything for me, but I'll take them, sure. That's the packaging at least and everything it comes with. Let's take a look at the special features of these things. So if we're just looking at disc 1 for the original movie, it is a 4K restoration of the film for the original camera negative. You have a bunch of new special features, including a brand new commentary with director Steve Barron, a brand new commentary with comic book expert and podcast host Dave Baxter, a bunch of new featurettes, and there's a couple of these features that I want to talk about specifically. There is an alternate UK version with unique footage prepared for censorship reasons. Now this will let you watch the full movie just in the UK version, where basically all of Michelangelo's nunchucks and references to them are removed. Now, the biggest scenes to suffer from this are obviously the, "Oh, a feller chucker, eh?" And then the end of the movie when Splinter has that line that he says to Shredder. He doesn't get to say that line, he just has to throw him right off the roof. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but it's interesting to see. I never even knew that there were alternate versions of the movies. I knew that the tone was, toned down a little bit in the second and third films because of the weapons, and then there's more alternate footage. An alternate ending from the VHS work print. I was stoked to see this. Now, there's nothing too crazy here, but I do find it interesting that the actors' voices in this scene are just the puppeteers' voices. They haven't gone through and redone this or anything. And you can see Danny and April basically pitching a Ninja Turtles comic to some people in an office building while the Ninja Turtles are on the outside of the building peering in. It's a pretty goofy ending, so I could see why they cut it, to be honest. But I didn't even know that this thing existed until this set came. Now, I'm not the biggest Ninja Turtles fan on the planet. I really just like these movies, occasionally the cartoon. So I don't know if it's well known in the community that it had that alternate ending or the UK version or even the alternate Korean footage, of which there is not much, but apparently they've removed all references to Japan and any of the word ninja. So they became Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Now, I feel like that I have heard about, but this set includes some of that footage, so it's very fascinating to see, at least from the perspective of someone who hasn't watched that footage before. And I was, unaware that it even existed. For parts 2 and 3, there's a bunch of other awesome special features. I really don't want to list them out because it'll just be me reading this. You can pause it and read it if you want to or anything like that, but there's even an alternate UK opening for Ninja Turtles 3, which, is all of our least favorite, let's be honest. But let's take a look at the new scans and see how they compare to the Blu-rays. Alright, so here is the comparison that we have put together for at least the first Ninja Turtles movie. On the left, you will have the Blu-ray disc, and on the right, you have the 4K. So there are some obvious differences here. I feel like the contrast is a lot higher on the Blu-ray. And as I've mentioned before in all of my, Blu-ray versus 4K comparison videos, watching this comparison with this shrunk down and uploaded to YouTube and compressed to hell isn't the optimal way to judge this. I'm just trying to give you somewhere to start, essentially, and talk about the color differences mainly. What I will say is the 4K definitely has a more natural color palette. The film grain is apparent in both the Blu-ray and the 4K, but in the 4K, it feels like I can see way more grain, and I don't know why that is necessarily. The colors are brighter, they do look better. Now, I don't know if I've seen anybody say anything bad about these new 4K scans. A scene like this, obviously that's way more blue. I don't know if that's the way the film scan looked or what. But there are some pretty big color differences here. You know what I mean? It's inescapable. This has always been one of my favorite shots from this movie, is this little pan down on New York City, and just, oh, how glorious it looks. And what I will say here is, if somebody's telling you you have to get this 4K, because the Blu-ray looks just terrible, they're lying. Let's be real, they both look good. This is definitely a film that, if you only have the Blu-ray set, you don't have the means to pick up the others, you'll be fine. What I will say is that every other release of Ninja Turtles, physical media-wise, is really nothing special. There's nothing to write home about there, except this Arrow set. The special features alone make it worth it. One of my favorite examples to point out is lights and fires in these comparisons, because Blu-rays are always washed out, and 4K has that extra depth. Now, is this important that I see this light bulb and its framing? No, but I can. Again, I think, honestly, both of these look great. With this set, I don't think the first movie is the best improvement in the set. We'll get to which one I do think is, but, like, look at that. That color difference, the depth is one thing, but, like, the actual color difference isn't something that's going to bother me on either one of these for the most part. Such a classic scene, but honestly, if you're looking at both of these and saying, man, I'd watch that one, but not that one, right? You're crazy. One of my favorite things is when he tries to put the popsicle stick back in his mouth and he just kind of pokes himself there. Look at him. Yet another good example of 4K. I know this seems unimportant, but like, this is the advantage of 4K, is look at that little green light that's coming out of that window on the Blu-ray. Can't even make anything out. Look on the 4K, look, it looks like a circle? What? It's a shape, though. Actually, you can tell from here, it looks more like letters. You know, this scene was always funny as a kid, but after I've been a pizza delivery guy, this is depressing to watch. I gotta say, I think the pizza looks better on the Blu-ray. Color-wise, that's... Yeah, I think the first Ninja Turtles is just such an iconic and wonderful movie. I would have included the VHS in the comparison for this video as well. I do have all three of them on VHS, but I've reviewed only the first one. You know what would have been a great special feature for this movie would have been to include that Pizza Hut commercial before the movie. This scene was burned into my skull as a child, and has been ever since. He's some sort of punker? I hate punkers, especially bald ones with green makeup. This is just one of those movies for me that's like Ghostbusters or Batman '89, Back to the Future. It's amazing and nostalgic, and I just live for it. I do gotta say though, just like doing this comparison, I'm just like, sometimes these new 4K scans are like, yeah, this is a little better. The Blu-ray just doesn't look bad to me, you know, so I don't feel like it's a huge upgrade, even though, technically speaking, it is. This is one of my favorite scenes, and I just had to see some of this blue flame. Look at that. Look at how much better that looks in 4K. There's depth in the fire versus it just washing out sort of in the middle there. It's just something with these new restorations, the way they're scanning the films now. I love it. A beautiful movie and a beautiful movie to look at. Let's take a look at part 2. And so here we've got the comparison for the Blu-ray and the 4K for part 2. In my opinion, the film to benefit the most from this scan. Although, however, I will say, again, Blu-ray doesn't look bad. Doesn't this just make you want to eat pizza, though? I had to get a pizza last night when I was watching all three of these and recording clips and stuff, man. Couldn't have done it. And this scene always makes me think of how this dude is just how dudes are on the internet these days when they get turned down on dating sites or wherever else. Total incel. But we do have a pretty kick-ass opening for the beginning of this movie. Again, look at the lighting back there on that eat sign. Look at his skin tone. Vast improvement there, I think. You know, again, I think some of these Blu-rays, they just cranked that saturation knob on. Because when we look at these side by side, it looks like there's more saturation on the Blu-ray. Again, when we do these comparisons, we're not looking with HDR, but... Now, I think other people would tell you that, you know, the second Ninja Turtles movie, it's maybe not quite as good as the first one, but it's up there with it. personally, if I gave the first one like 5 out of 5 stars, this one's at least a full star below that, not 2. And the other movie's a full star below this one, but I think this one and 3 are closer in line than this one and the first one, because I think the first one's damn near just a complete masterpiece. As we look through this scene, though, the differences are subtle, but like, I'm watching this and I'd have no doubts that the 4K looks better. When I'm watching the first movie, I'm kind of like, honestly, I could take either or. So I probably sound like a hater of this movie as I'm talking about it, but I really don't, I promise. This is a movie I did not own as a kid. I owned the first one and watched it religiously, and would love when I could rent this one or when it pop up on TV. And all this Ooze stuff is definitely ingrained in my skull. That's what makes this movie so cool, but look at the color difference there. I mean, we're very orange. Like, even the yellows look orange on the Blu-ray. You see what I'm saying? They're almost the same color as their jumpsuits there. However, on the 4K, you have more colors there. The greens are greener, the yellows are yellower. The yellow is more distinct from the orange. Another beautiful set. Ugh, I just love it. Isn't it fun? I'm like Donatello. This is amazing. This is me and you guys watching this video right now. 90s computer stuff was always hilarious. Now, I will say I don't mind how the Blu-ray looks here. This scene in particular, I might actually even prefer the Blu-ray's color scheme. And moving forward, again, the Vanilla Ice scene, right? So, God, that right there is incredible. I feel like I'm just gaining more detail in the 4K, and I obviously am, but like, it's a frame like this that says, yes, this is an obvious improvement on the Blu-ray. I think Secret of the Ooze is definitely the film that benefited the most from these new scans, like, without a doubt in my mind. I do just love those colors. I'm not a huge Vanilla Ice fan personally, you know, but listen, I'm not a hater. Let's see how Shredder looks in this glorious lighting. I mean, both look good, but look at that extra depth, man. Look at his helmet. I'm calling it. This is the best movie in this new set. The best scan in the new set. And to prove it, let's take a look at part 3. Immediate color differences there. Really fascinating. Again, this is what I'm talking about, where the Blu-rays sometimes look like the scan. Again, here's what I'm talking about. The Blu-rays just sometimes look like they've turned that saturation knob just to fucking 100, you know what I mean? And obviously Ninja Turtles 3 is not everyone's favorite or anything. I will say on this most recent rewatch, however, I enjoyed it a lot more than I previously thought I did. Now, if we want to talk about which one of these scans actually looks better here, I don't even know where to start. The coloring there, I feel like the Blu-ray looks more close to what I remember, but that's because I'm remembering like a washed out like neon green for the lettering there, you know? Just take a look at the logo here. The 4K overall generally is just a little bit less exposed, which I think is fine. I think that's the way the first movie was as well. You can start to see some of the more obvious differences here with stuff like Splinter. But I will go on and say that for the most part, this one looks closest to the Blu-ray counterpart, the least amount of differences. But even saying that, when you're not looking at, you know, green flesh and you're looking at some human flesh, it's easier to tell, I feel like. But again, the differences are much more subtle in this film. I think the clear winner was Secret of the Ooze. The first one, I'm kind of on the fence about which one I actually think looks better. And for this third one, I could go either way. It does not matter to me. However, the special features do make it worth it.
If you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.